Well, let us look at algebra of complex numbers. So when we're dealing with complex numbers, where there is I, which is imaginary number, we add them or subtract them separately. So under algebra of complex numbers, that is why we're saying real and imaginary parts cannot be combined. They are added or subtracted separately. So that one will clearly be seen in example 2. But as we start example 1, let us begin with example 1 and see how we can go about with research. So in example 1, we have I squared as being our part A. So example 1, we are saying find the following. Part A, we have I squared. So we need to find the value of I squared. So in our solution, we know that I squared is equals to what we don't yet know. That is why I have used the question mark here. But remember, in our previous lesson, in the introduction of complex numbers, we said that square root of -1 is the same as I. So which means I is the same as the square root of -1. So that when I is having some power, the same power should also be on top of the what? The root on this side. So the same power which is here should also be applied here. So that is why we are saying in the next step that it implies that I squared is the same as the square root of -1, and all of them put to power 2. Since the I is having power 2, this side should also have power 2. Similar to this one, because this one I is not having a power, or it is under power silent one, this side also the same way, having the power of silent one. So now, since I squared is having power 2, so when it is expressed in terms of root, should also have power 2. But you are aware that square root means to power a half. So when you multiply a half by 2, you get 1. In other words, in a simple way, when there is a root sign, when there is a square root and there is a power 2, we just cross power 2 cancels out with the root sign. So that when it cancels out inside the root, we shall remain with -1. And that -1 here, we put it out clearly. So our answer for I squared is -1. That's why we have said I squared is the same as -1. That is for part A. In our part B, let's look at part B. In our part B, we know that it is given as being B is given as being I to power 3. So in our solution, we are saying I to power 3. And since I is the same as square root of 1, if I is not having the power, this root -1 is not supposed to have the power also. But when it is having power 3, this side should also have power 3. So that we aim at making one of them to be power 2. Because when it is to power 2, it makes it easy for us to remove the root sign from it. So that is why in the next step, we are putting to power 2 on one side, then we multiply by the other one without the power, which is power 1. So power 3 means this one to power 2 times the same thing to power 1. But 1 we have not bothered to put, because we just know that when there is something without a power, it means it is to power 1. So now we can deal with the one on our right. So square and the root, and square and the square root, they cancel out, meaning that in the next step we shall remain with -1, and the -1 is here. Meanwhile, this side, root of -1, we cannot further simplify. We just put the representative as root of -1. We know it is the same as I, so that I remains there. So root of -1 is the same as I. So now, if we multiply -1 times I, we get -I. That is our part B. So The same way we are going to do the one for part C. This part is supposed to be C. This is our part C. So our part C, this one is our part C. In our part C, we have C is the same as I to power 4. So we are also going to find the value of I to power 4. In our solution, we know that if I is having no power, it means same as root of -1, which is having no power. And when I is the same as to power 4, which means this root also has to power 4. But power 4 means root to power -1 to power 2, then this side also to power 2. We make sure each part should have the power of 2 so that it can be easy for us to handle it. So since power 4 can be power 2 times something to power 2, that is why we have expressed as being root to power this one, power this one. Since we know with powers, when we are multiplying numbers of the same base, we add the powers, so it will take us back there. So which means in our step here, we are very correct. Now, when we express, now we shall have root of power root of -1 to power 2, then times root of -1 to power 2. We express it like this. Then we make it to be seen clearly. Then we cancel out the square by square root of 2. And this side also, we cancel 2 by square root of 2. So that inside the root here, we remain with -1. Here also, we remain with -1. And we know negative times negative, we get positive. And 1 times 1, we get 1. So -1 times -1, we get positive 1. That is how we should go about with the I when you see them there in algebra of complex numbers. So that is for our example 1. So we also have our example 2, example 3 like that. So you keep following. Don't forget to subscribe. If you have any question, you send to us in the comment. Thank you.